Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. The International Energy Agency, or IEA, stated that global oil markets are adequately supplied despite rising tensions in the Middle East, particularly following Iran's missile attacks on Israel. While crude prices surged due to fears of supply disruptions, recent factors like the end of a Libyan oil blockade and modest U.S. output losses have stabilized the market. The IEA is prepared to coordinate reserve releases if necessary, as its member countries hold over 1.2 billion barrels in public stocks. Looking ahead, the IEA forecasts a slowdown in global oil demand growth, particularly from China, with an increase of just under 900,000 barrels per day expected in 2024. Saudi Arabia's Aramco has canceled plans to build a major refinery and chemicals project at Ras Al Khair and is shifting its focus to Asia. The oil giant's pivot reflects its strategy to align with the growing demand for plastics and chemicals in China and other Asian markets. Aramco has originally planned a 400,000 barrel a day refinery in Saudi Arabia, but has opted to invest in Asia instead. Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim reaffirmed Tuesday that state energy firm Petronas will continue its oil and gas exploration in the South China Sea. That's despite objections from China, which asserted that Malaysia's oil and gas exploration in the South China Sea breached its territory. Anwar emphasized that exploration activities in Malaysia's exclusive economic zone are within its territorial rights and not meant to provoke. Petronas' Kasawari field holds an estimated 10 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves and commenced first production in August this year. U.S. think tank Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative said in a report this month that Chinese Coast Guard vessels have made frequent visits to Malaysian exploratory wells off Sarawak this year, passing close to the gas production platforms. Two companies from the United Arab Emirates expressed strong interest in investing in the Philippines. Acting Trade Secretary Cristina Roque confirms she's met with representatives from logistics giant DP World and renewable energy developer Masdar, as both firms are keen to invest in the country. DP World, already a key investor in Asian terminals, plans to invest up to 25 billion pesos to expand port operations, while Masdar is committing at least 600 million pesos to develop solar, wind, and battery storage projects. In a landmark fraud case, Singapore has sentenced oil trader OK Lim to 20 years in prison for cheating HSBC out of millions. Lim's actions led to one of the largest commodity trading collapses in the country's history, shaking investor confidence across the region. News from across the country in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the Philippines, 5 more public-private partnership projects worth 28 billion pesos are expected to be awarded by 2025. According to the PPP Center, as reported by Business World, these projects include the new Bohol International Airport, the UP PGH Cancer Center in Manila, the Bislig City bulk water supply and septage projects in Surigao del Sur, and the dialysis center of the Baguio General Hospital. In addition, 8 more PPP projects may be awarded next year, provided they receive approvals from their implementing agencies. These include the upgrade, operation, and maintenance of airports in Iloilo, Calibo, and Puerto Princesa. Other notable projects include the Metro Manila Subway, Boracay Bridge Project, and the Philippine Automatic Fare Collection System. The total resources of the Philippine financial system rose by nearly 10% as of August, driven primarily by growth in bank assets. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows that the total resources of banks and non-bank financial institutions reached 32 trillion pesos compared to 29 trillion last year. Bank resources jumped 11% to 27 trillion pesos, while non-bank financial institutions record a more modest growth of 2.5%, bringing their total to just over 5 trillion pesos. These resources include key assets like deposits, capital, and debt securities. This increase matters because it signals a healthier financial system which enhances economic stability and fosters greater lending and investment opportunities. The International Monetary Fund is urging countries to implement fiscal tightening policies as global public debt is set to surpass $100 trillion this year. In its latest fiscal monitor report, the IMF projects global debt to reach 93% of the world's GDP by year end, with the possibility of hitting 100% by 2030, surpassing the peak seen during the COVID pandemic. In a worst-case scenario where weak growth, tight financing, and policy uncertainty persist, public debt could soar to 115% of global GDP in just 3 years, 20 percentage points above current estimates. The IMF warns that now is the time for fiscal adjustments as economies enjoy solid growth and low unemployment. Delaying these measures could lead to more severe economic challenges ahead. The national rice inventory rises by nearly 7% in September. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows total rice stocks reaching 1.66 million metric tons, boosted by increased inventories from commercial entities and the National Food Authority. Commercial rice inventories increased slightly by 0.2% to over 1 million metric tons, while NFA rice stocks more than doubled to 151,000 metric tons. On the other hand, household rice stocks fell by nearly 25% to around 458,000 metric tons. Rice is a staple food in the Philippines, so inventory levels impact food security and prices. Higher inventory helps stabilize prices, while lower household stocks could signal tighter supply. Filipinos living abroad are sending more money back home. Cash remittances in August grew by 3%, reaching nearly $3 billion compared to the same period last year. However, this is slightly lower than the $3.1 billion sent in July. For the first 8 months of 2024, total cash remittances climbed 3% to $22.2 billion, up from $21.6 billion in the same period last year. The bulk of these remittances came from Filipinos in the United States, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Singapore. Remittances are a key driver of the Philippine economy, supporting household spending, stabilizing the peso, and boosting consumption, which all fuels growth. The biggest corporate news in the U.S. in the final stretch of Follow the Money. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Presidential candidate and former U.S. President Donald Trump rejects concerns his protectionist trade policies and fiscal proposal could damage the American economy and strain ties with allies. Trump tells Bloomberg News his proposals would actually boost American manufacturing and generate enough revenue to alleviate worries about increasing the federal deficit.
And we're all about growth. We're going to bring companies back to our country. You look at even today, as I was driving over, I see these empty, old, beautiful, like steel mills and factories that are empty and falling down. Some have been converted to senior citizens' homes, but that's not going to do the trick. And We're going to bring the companies back. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA.
Trump also insists he would have a right to tell the Federal Reserve what to do about interest rates, but he says he would not order a move.
I don't say make the decision at all, but I've been a very successful businessman. I've done really good, much better. Now people are understanding how good I've done because they're seeing it much better than the fake news wants to give me credit for. Really good. I don't think I should be allowed to order it, but I think I have the right to put in comments as to whether or not interest rates should go up or down.
NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel shares dip on potential U.S. AI chip export cap. Shares of NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel are under pressure after a Bloomberg report revealed that the U.S. government is considering new export restrictions on artificial intelligence chips to countries in the Middle East. The move aims to curb sales of AI technology to sensitive regions. NVIDIA, which hit an all-time high yesterday, has seen its shares fall by less than 1% in pre-market trading. Other chip makers, including AMD and Intel, also slipped on the news. Google is investing in nuclear energy to meet the growing power demands of its artificial intelligence services. The tech giant has struck a deal with startup Kairos Power to purchase energy from a 500-megawatt nuclear reactor that will come online by 2030, with more reactors planned by 2035. This follows similar moves from other tech companies like Microsoft, which is restarting a reactor at Pennsylvania's 3 Mile Island. Google shares rose by 0.3%. Apple saw a 3.5% increase in smartphone sales in the third quarter, driven by strong demand for the newly launched iPhone 16 as well as older models. Data from the International Data Corporation show Apple shipped 56 million smartphones globally, maintaining a market share of 17.7%. Still, Samsung edged out Apple as a top seller, shipping 57.8 million phones to hold 18.3% of the market. Apple shares closed up 1.1%. Walgreens is shutting down 1,200 stores across the U.S. as the company struggles to recover from declining sales and rising costs. The closures are part of a wider effort to save nearly $4 billion in operational expenses. Walgreens' fiscal fourth quarter showed a 5.3% decline in revenue, driven by lower demand for COVID-related products. Overseas now, cash-strapped Boeing is turning to Wall Street to shore up its finances. The plane maker announced plans to raise up to $25 billion through stock and debt offerings. This is on top of a $10 billion credit facility from a consortium of banks. Analysts estimate that the company needs to raise as much as $15 billion to maintain its credit ratings, which are just one notch above junk status. Boeing describes these moves as prudent steps to ensure liquidity in this challenging time. This comes as the company grapples with massive financial losses from crippling strike by union workers and a slump in production of its popular 737 MAX jet. Now, in a novel approach to tackling unemployment and obesity, the UK government is considering offering weight loss injections to help people with obesity return to work. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says this could ease pressure on the NHS and boost the economy. Health Secretary Wes Streeting describes the jabs as potentially life-changing, with a 5-year trial already underway in Greater Manchester. And that's it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionaire News channel, always on top.